build. I'm here to talk a little bit about doing 3D and specifically using the Irrlicht engine on Android. Okay, so Android, if you guys know, has a 3D engine built into it. It's based on OpenGL, specifically based on the OpenGL ES API. And depending on what version of Android you're running, you either have, like if you're running Android 1.1 or 1.5, you use an OpenGL ES 1.0. If you're using 1.6 to 2.1, you're using OpenGL ES 1.1. And if you're lucky enough to have the latest version of Android 2.2, then you're running OpenGL GS or ES 2.0. If you're doing something within the native development kit of Android, you can have access to the API version 2.0 since version 2. So these are basic examples of what you can do with just the core OpenGL Java APIs, textured, spheres, spinning. I'm going to try and do this, show you guys. This thing takes what's on my screen, puts it up here. It does not run like this. It's losing a lot of frames per second because it's projected from here to here. If you want to see what these actually look like afterwards, just come by, I'll show you. This is an example of spinning planets. Example of this screenshot here, lines, etc. So the Android platform also has a native development kit. Basically, I've just copied this off their website. You can read if you want. Basically, what that means is that you can use C and C++ libraries inside of Android if you compile them using the Android native development kit. So what it does is it creates a shared object library. You put that in your Android project, and then you can access those. It's a little bit more difficult than that because you have to write callbacks to and from the C++ and Android, but it's pretty straightforward if you've used it before. Now, for this example, I've taken the Irrlicht 3D engine, which is an open source, free 3D engine that has a huge community base. It's written in C++. The API is in C++, even though it has wrappers and other stuff for a ton of other languages. There's Ruby, Perl, .NET. Most graphics engines don't support as many, options as this. This one actually supports Direct3D 8.1, 9.0, OpenGL, not OpenGL ES, but OpenGL 1.2 to 3.0. It has an internal software renderer, a null device, and then Burning's video software render. If you guys want to check it out, it's a SourceForge project, Irrlicht. Irrlicht stands for crazy light. It's basically a will-o-wisp, you know. Here's an example of not on Android right now, just this is something I wrote for Direct3D. This is just a ragdoll terrain example. It's an example of something you could build with it. Also did another proof of concept for underwater caustic lighting effects and stuff like that. They're in the community of people that is on the Irrlicht forum. There's a bunch of people that got together to build a port of Irrlicht to Android. The main forum discussion and all the information is right there. You can get the code from that URL. It's open source. I'm going to go over the instructions at like a 200,000 foot level if anyone wants to talk to me in more detail about how to do this or accomplish this afterwards. But Basically, you have to download and install the Android native development kit. It does not come with the Android SDK. It's a separate download and install. You have to use Git to clone the Irrlicht Android repository. You're going to have to modify the make file that comes with it. Yeah, this is just a location of where that is so that it pulls the correct information, the correct libraries. You're going to have Cygwin installed on your computer. And basically, in Cygwin, you're going to navigate to the Android NDK place, and you're going to build this project. It's going to compile all the C++ code into an SO file, which is going to be put into the Android project. And then in Eclipse, if you've done Android development before, you can just import the Android project with the build and then just launch it. So what I did for this is I took two existing libraries. These are pure Java libraries. It's the Irrlicht library, and I loaded the same mesh. It's a Quake 2 model, Ogre MD2. I loaded the same Quake 2 model. I animated it and textured it. So basically the exact same functionality between the three, and I've got it on here. I'll try and show it to you guys. It doesn't look very good. I'm also, if anyone's interested, I'm one button push away from publishing in the Android market if anyone wants to see it on their own phone. But the average load time for the Irrlicht was under 3 seconds to get the model up, running, and textured. The average FPS was around 28. For the mid 3D library, which is an open source project's on Google Code, the average load time was around 30 seconds, and it also, on some cases, the average load time will also eat all the memory on the machine and crash it. And the average FPS was 7 when it did load. This one, Bad Logic, is actually a game company, Bad Logic Games. They have an example of what they do. Again, the code's based here. The average load time was 9 seconds. Still didn't load as fast as Irrlicht, but the average FPS was way higher. It's around 60 frames per second. And also, I didn't chart this out, I didn't put it up here, but the memory utilization was about a fourth up here of what the memory that this used for the thing. So that was, let me just give it a try here and see if I can actually put this up. So it's going to look awful, like I said, if you want to come by later and see it on the actual machine. But the I'm not even going to load the mid 3D one because it'll just take too long. But Irrlicht one, again, it looks nice on here. Not doing that very well. It took like, as you saw, 2 to 3 seconds to load. The Bad Logic one takes about 8 or 9 seconds to load, and gets much better frame rate, which you can see reflected in the video out here, but also that. So why do this? Well, in my experience, I found that I didn't go over the details, but Irrlicht has a lot of features. They cover most stuff that 3D engines are supposed to cover. That you can do almost anything in it, shaders, all that kind of stuff. It has a robust 3D engine framework. There's a large active community. If you have a question, concern, if you want to build something, if you want to contribute or do something like that, there's a large active community. You can reuse the code. In fact, the code of the Ogre running was just something that was already there. So if you've already developed a lot of code using that library, then you can go forward and just reuse it in Android. Some processes seem to be faster. It loads quicker in the examples I use based on what's out there. It uses less memory. So that is basically it. This is who I am. If you have any questions, or if you want to see it working, or if anyone's interested in the source code, I can get that out to you guys. If anyone's interested in seeing it running here or wants me to put it in the Android market so they can get it, just let me know as well.